Ooh, I debated with myself on this particular topic because I am truly a Youtubian struggle streamer. I am. I am. And I have followed the career of Dr. Umar Johnson for over a decade. I started out as a supporter and quickly started to question his behaviors. And I will not take credit for anything that I know about Umar Johnson. All credit goes to the well researched YouTube host, Lennon Honor, whom I follow and whom I like and admire as just as a professional person and as a dad and as a family person. You can say what you want about Lennon, but he is fair. If he says something disparaging or out of the way, he will apologize. He will present proof. He's just all about receipts. He doesn't even talk about Umar in a way that is disrespectful. He lets Umar make all of the statements based on all of the videos he's made, and then he just follows up, right? So I can't take credit for anything that I know. And I feel terrible because I feel like I'm low key clout chasing, but I wanted to give a perspective or two perspectives from a professional, right? So I am not a psychologist, but I do hold a master's in psychology. My bachelor's is in psychology around addictive behaviors. Wink, wink. I'm not going to touch that. I want to talk about my professional experience dealing with young young people, but most of my clients when I was in this space were young men. And I want to talk about it from the perspective of a parent, of a son who fit the mold and the program that Umar was initially bringing to us. And that's why and how I found him, because my son had an IEP. He was not in full special education, but he had what was called pull-out classes to support his learning difference. And we championed and advocated for my son, and we were looking for support to help us manage and deal with the school system when my son was like a freshman in high school. My son is currently 25 years old, and he lives with his girlfriend and he works every day. But we were looking for support, and that's how I came across Umar, because we were really trying to get my son into a different school, right? And my the light went off, my eyes went open. I was like, oh my gosh, this would be perfect for my son. And when I realized that that wasn't coming to pass, we had to find alternatives. And what I didn't appreciate about Umar's message, and I don't want to disrespect the man, is that he did not fully share the benefits of having an IEP and the benefit of your child being in special education. Take a breath. You all know I don't usually handle topics like this. Well, the two of you that watch my videos know that this is not my direction. But the benefit of having your child in special education is that they have what's called an individualized education program, which empowers you and arms you as the parent to ensure that your child is getting an individualized program that specifically meets their need. It's not supposed to be this blanket special education and all the kids are on the same level in terms of how they learn. No, 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 no. We fought the school system. This particular school system had an amazing superintendent who walked us through the program, right? Public schools get a stipend for your child, right? They get, I think at the time for my son, back then they were like, they get anywhere between $13,000 and $15,000 per child. So you wanting to send your child to another school will put the board in an uproar because they'll have to pay for that. We were looking for other avenues, other schools for my son, because my son just needed support in specific areas, right? And we fought and we found an education advocate. Shout out to Terry. I don't know where she is these days, but she's one of the reasons why my son graduated. And not to belabor or prolong this particular video, the points that I did not particularly care about with the prison, you know, pipeline to prison story or concept is that in my case, the school system, or I should say the school psychologist, was advocating to have my son removed from his IEP. I don't want to get into it because it'll be a whole nother show, but we believe that she forged our signatures on his paperwork, so that we could miss the re-up, so to speak. So what I'm saying here is, ever so often you have to go in and sign for your child to remain on special services. And this particular school psychologist had signed for us, but the opposite, saying that he no longer needed it. And we just so happened to get to the school the last day. And when they presented us the paperwork, we were like, we never signed that. Hell no, we don't want him to lose his resources. Hell no. The reason why, and this is the real message that I wish he would have shared. The reason why is, had they removed my son's resources and put him in general education, gen pop, so to speak, he wouldn't have graduated, because there were special tools and resources that we had built in. And my son is brilliant. He's a super duper smart kid. And I remember him coming home. He didn't even know he was orchestrating his own special services. He was like, I'm in the class with this person and that person, and this is where they are on the spectrum, right? And this is how I feel like this is going to benefit me or not. So we put together this brilliant plan to help support my son. You know, he was a knucklehead, and meaning that he just didn't like doing schoolwork, right? It's all good. But we got him through. He was able to graduate. But his school psychologist realized that IEP equipped us as his parents to ask for everything we wanted and needed, down to helping us finding universities and colleges that would accept him with his IEP. Do any of you parents with children on the on the spectrum or that are in special education, do you know that there are universities that during the admissions process they ask you, do you have an IEP? And if you check it, it puts them in a completely different bracket in terms of how they are admitted into the school, right? A lot of parents don't know 504 plans and IEPs is their secret weapon. And please forgive me if Umar did mention this in his talking points around it and I missed it. I just don't ever remember it. And that's why I started to distance myself from his message, because I was like, wait a minute. Without this plan, your children really do fall through the cracks. He should be saying that with this plan, they get what they need. which leads me into the professional aspect. The professional aspect, I worked for, and I'll tell you, there's a company, it's in New Jersey, it's in Pennsylvania, it's in Delaware. I worked for Kaleidoscope in New Jersey and in Delaware. Look it up. They provide special therapeutic services for children on the spectrum, you name it. Autism, learning differences, oppositional defiance disorder. I was what's called a TSF, a behavioral coach. Most of 95, no, 100% of my clientele were all boys from the age of 7 to 17, mixed race. And what they all had in common was me as a coach, and they all had IEPs. So I've sat through and set in dozens of IEP meetings where the IEP was the weapon. It was the tool. I set in on the school level and at the district and state level because those were my clients. I was advocating for them. We had a specialized therapeutic program via Kaleidoscope in conjunction with the school. And I had a set of tools and resources that I was to use with every client that I had, specialized for them. That special service that was provided in Delaware. I was in Dover, I was in Wilmington, I was in Newark, I was in Newcastle, clients all throughout the state. I went into the schools. I had one client that I would sit with for 5 days a week, 4 to 6 hours. And then we started to, as he progressed and got better in behaviors and performance, I had other clients in the same school, right? What awarded them and afforded them the benefit? Sometimes they call it a paraprofessional, but I did everything with them. I went home with them. I went to medical appointments with them because I was the coach, the behavior analyst, if you will, aligning how they showed up at home, in school, in social settings, and what afforded and awarded them this opportunity, the IEP. And I'm not talking just black families because I had black families. Now, there was a difference I noted in the black families versus the white families. And if you want to hear about that, we could talk about that. That I personally noticed. I have no real data to support it. But what allowed me to support these young men that were in special education and that varied when it came to where they fell with their intellectual differences was the individualized education program. So I'm not beating up Mr. Johnson. I wish he would have provided more talking points and more education around how to develop an IEP and 504 plan to enable your child, your black child, to be successful, right? And I would be able to advocate for them. I would be able to say, hey, this kid only has 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week with me. We need more time, right? We worked with the program, we worked with the district to ensure that those kids got the time that they needed. I had runners. What does that mean, Coach Ben? That means I had a client or some clients that would leave the school. They would take off, run out of school, emotional, psychological differences and disorders. Delaware is a special state, and I wish Mr. Johnson would have sunk his teeth into it because if he really meant those boys well, there was more than enough work in that state. Delaware is different than New Jersey and different than Pennsylvania in terms of how they handle their children, right? And maybe one day I'll put together a video to talk about my experience. It's been about 5 or 6 years since I've worked in that setting, in that clinical setting. If I could, I would, but I can't show you. I've got clinical notes and all kinds of things to detail. There's, if you're familiar, people in Delaware with the Terry Center and a bunch of other clinical settings that are there to help manage children with behavioral issues, just many, many issues. But I didn't want to make this video to bash Mr. Johnson. I wanted to make this video to say, as a parent, I really dug you conceptually over 10 years ago, but I couldn't wait for you. I couldn't, right? As a clinician, I'm not a licensed therapist or psychologist. I'm a certified professional coach. If you want to look up ICF. It is the International Coaching Federation. I graduated from I.P Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. I studied for many years. Most people get their certifications in about a year-ish. I drug that thing out. I studied. I volunteered as a coach for about 3 years before I finally got my certification. We're talking hours and hours of coaching just to be certified. And I share that with you if you want to talk about accreditation, right? But this has been my my labor of love. I've coached in many settings. I started out recovery coaching in a halfway house, then moved into domestic violence. I was a mentor, and I led a program in Asbury Park, Platinum Minds. I worked under that organization for about 3 years, where we have scholars, young Black men that come into our setting and we support them, right? We prepare them. And if you want to look them up and donate to them, they are an amazing organization. I'm no longer affiliated, but it's platinumminds.org, I think, or .com, led by Yvette Long. Just a brilliant organization. So I know some stuff, right, on a very, very small scale. But I wish Mr. Johnson would have communicated to the parent as much as he possibly could. While you wait for me to build this school, make sure your child has an IEP plan, and here is what you need to ensure that they are successful, because this is what it's going to get them. There are so many benefits to having an IEP plan, especially in the state of Delaware, especially there, right? So if you do have a child in special education, ask some questions. Should they be full special education, full pull out? Should they have a paraprofessional? Should they have a TSF? Look it up, and all of the families that have waited, I pray that you have found the resource for your child and that they have what they need. Again, when it comes to facts about Umar Johnson, Lennon Honor, has them all, right? And I've been seeing all the videos pop up, and some of them are enjoyable and comedic. But when you've been following Lennon, you go, damn, they just talking. They're just sharing what other people have shared in other videos. But as a dad and as someone who's worked in a clinical setting, I don't know if Mr. Johnson cares to redeem himself, or if this was his real original mission, and if he'll reconcile and repent and get back to it. But talk about the benefits of a 504 plan and an IEP, maybe louder than you've talked about being against mixed race relationships and pop culture and all the five thick in the thighs. right? Let that part of your speech be the loudest so that parents know what they have and what they can demand. Guys, you know I love you. And this video is longer than any of my videos have ever been. So I'm sorry. But I love you. Take care of yourself. Take care of your communities. And I'll talk to you soon.